phantom figure, drifting shadows inside an abandoned, burned-out boarding school, suffocatingly claustrophobic caving explorations, a threateningly close tornado boiling up just outside someone's home, and more. These are just some of the videos we've collected for today's video. As always, hit those lights, sit back, and prepare yourself for 5 creepy things caught on camera. Our first video comes from the Philippines, as a biker travelling through Cagayan de Oro City in Mindanao captures what seems to be a human figure attempting to step in front of his bike, but when he looks back, there's nothing to be seen. Take a look. At night, the biker is heading down a well-lit road in a seemingly busy residential area. Not where you would initially expect a creepy encounter to occur, but they start to flash their headlights at something ahead. As they get nearer, we can see that it's a human figure walking casually across the road, dressed in a grey hoodie and orange pants. But this deceptive normalcy quickly takes a turn. The figure suddenly bolts forward a couple of steps, right into the path of the speeding biker, who very narrowly misses hitting them. But as they look back over their shoulder in shock, the figure is nowhere to be seen. Slowing down and clearly spooked, the biker begins to pull over, whilst presumably talking to himself, or maybe another rider via headset, still unsure of what has just happened. In an interview with a Filipino news station, the biker says after the video, he turned around and rode back along the same stretch of road, but could find no evidence of the near miss and no sign of the figure. Commenters' opinions on the Reddit post are split. Some believe the figure could have been paranormal, somehow replicating the moment of their untimely death as an apparition, or maybe even some sort of premonition, whilst others are more skeptical, believing the video actually captures a real person tragically attempting to take their own life. A failed mugging / bikejacking, or a very risky stage stunt. The question is, what do you think? Caveman Hikes is a YouTube channel that follows the spine-tingling caving expeditions of Calvin, his nephew Jacob, and their small group of friends throughout various claustrophobic cave systems in the United States. As someone who is pretty claustrophobic, all of their videos are terrifying, but the following video that we're about to show is truly one that will make you squirm in your seat, no matter your comfort in small spaces. If you're highly claustrophobic or anxious, we suggest you look away now. On this particular trip, Calvin and Jacob are exploring with a team responsible for mapping the cave system, discovering exciting new routes for other cavers, as well as potentially fatal ones. Pretty much straight away, they are faced with numerous confined squeezes, in some places with less than 3 inches headspace. If this was us, we most definitely would have turned around ASAP, but we probably wouldn't have even been there in the first place. But the cavers push on, at one point entering a passage that looks straight out of a horror movie, lit only by their personal torches and headlamps. Calvin is lying on his stomach with his back pressed against the roof of the passage, shimmying along mere inches at a time, his face pressed against the cold rock floor, with no space to turn back, roll over, or even look the opposite way. If he breathes out too hard, or alternatively inhales too deeply, he could become wedged, trapped against the restrictive ceiling and the uneven surface. And then if panic sets in, hyperventilating could cause him to become lodged even worse. With what can only be described as nerves of steel and an extremely calm demeanour, Calvin edges his way through the passage, eventually emerging into a wider chamber where he can just about turn his head and move both arms, but this is only the first of their nightmarish situations. As they make their way deeper into the cave, a message is passed along from the other cavers. One of them has become stuck in the tightest portion of another entrance. Calvin rushes to the caver's aid, who's wedged in a narrow passage with his arms stuck down to his sides, essentially helpless, unable to move any further or even backwards without assistance. Fortunately, Calvin is able to grab one of the caver's ankles and gradually ease him from the tight spot before pulling him out. Crisis narrowly averted, the group decides to do exactly what you'd hope: go back in and try again. This time Calvin makes it through, barely, with only literal centimeters to spare, shimmying along on a piece of cardboard that protects his torso from the craggy surface, and with nothing but his camera and lamp for company, whilst Calvin and his crew manage to successfully navigate the cave system, emerging eventually back into daylight, fresh air and freedom. Not all cavers are so lucky. On average, there are 3 to 4 caving fatalities a year in North America, perhaps the most disturbing in recent history being the Nutty Putty incident that you are all probably familiar with. In 2009, whilst exploring in the Nutty Putty caves in Utah, 26-year-old John Jones entered an unmapped passageway, climbing headfirst into a vertical fissure that measured just 10 by 18 inches, where he became wedged for 28 hours. An appalling accident we've covered many times, but most recently in a video that you can check out in the description below. Redditor Appropriate Grab 9929 was exploring their campus of Blair Academy, a 176-year-old boarding school located in Blairstown, New Jersey, when he caught the following creepy footage. Take a look. As they're walking around the inside of one building, the uploader enters an unusual room in the attic, which looks long since abandoned and full of junk, furniture, cardboard boxes, and other old-school equipment. With only the flash from their phone as a source of light, they use it to look into an adjoining room. Just seconds before they turn to leave, a dark transparent shadow crosses from left to right in front of the camera, visible on the lower right of the video, although the uploader doesn't seem to notice its presence. Whilst only fleeting, the shadow definitely looks as though it's moving of its own accord, and it's not the uploader's, as the only light source is coming from their phone held in front of them. Some comments on the post said they could make out legs walking, whilst others claimed it looked like a flowing robe or gown of some sort. Can you make anything out? Whilst doing some research into Blair Academy, we found out that the original hall in question was devastated by a fire in December 1922, and the current building later built on its foundations. Further to this, academic staff who've lived on campus have reported hearing people singing in the dorms, as well as running feet, while students were away on summer break. Let us know your thoughts on this one in the comments. The following video comes out of the Midwestern United States, where a chillingly foreboding tornado is brewing right in front of the uploader's home. Check it out.
This is really, really, really bad. Like, that is a strong tornado. Look at the sinking motion in the yard.
Looking out across a farmed field, less than a few hundred feet away from the uploader, the sky has turned into a churning, turbulent mix of blackened clouds and grey swirls, a stormy wind buffeting the phone's speakers. Towards the end of the video, we can also see the sudden flash of lightning inside the storm, a forewarning of the danger to come. Tornadoes are known to be amongst the most violent phenomena of all atmospheric storms the world experiences, and around 1,200 hit the United States every year. The worst in the country's recorded history hit Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana on March 18, 1925. The Tri-State Tornado, as it was called, killed over 750 people and travelled an unbelievable path of 352 kilometers or 219 miles, devastating everything in its path and causing over $17 million in damages, 2.6 billion in today's currency. Still unknown what truly causes them, they are a terrifying spectacle of spinning funnel-like columns of turbulent air, violently rotating as they rip up concrete bridges and uproot trees, thrash vehicles as though they were toy cars, destroy houses in seconds, and scatter dangerous debris in their wake. Tornadoes are rated using the F and EF scale, F1 being the lowest and F5 the most powerful, incorporating factors such as wind speed and damage inflicted. Surprisingly, it's not the size of the tornado that determines its rating, but its destructiveness. With all of this in mind, the cameraman's comments, "This is really, really, really bad," seems very understated when facing this behemoth of nature's fury looming just outside their home. Tornadoes have always scared the life out of us, and I'm sure you're the same. And last but not least, at first glance, it's easy to dismiss the following clip as an ordinary retro home video, perhaps taken on a Christmas morning, as one man unwraps his presents and the camera user calmly jokes and asks him questions. Yet the truth is appallingly more sinister. The two men in the video are Von Lester Taylor, 25, and Edward Stephen Daly, 21, opening Christmas presents that aren't theirs, after breaking into a remote cabin and waiting for the real family to return so they could kill them. Just 3 days before Christmas 1990, the Tide family, Rolf and Kay, their daughters Line and Tricia, and Kay's disabled mother Beth Potts, all travelled up to their picturesque log cabin in the snowy mountains of Oakley, Utah, planning to spend the holidays there. They were well prepared and had brought with them gifts and seasonal treats. Unbeknownst to them, Von Lester and Daly, both convicted criminals, had recently left a halfway house and were breaking into a number of log cabins in the area, looting and trashing whatever they found. It's thought that the pair saw the Tide family heading into town on December 22nd and decided to lie in wait for their return inside their cabin. It was here that the two revoltingly used the Tide's own video camera to record themselves, callously opening up the family's presents and casting them aside. We can even see Von Lester read the label for one. Returning home from the bitterly cold trip, 20-year-old Line rushed ahead of her family to warm up, but when she opened the cabin door, she was faced with Von Lester and Daly, both armed with revolvers demanding she get inside. When the rest of the family followed, they were similarly ushered in at gunpoint. And after Rolf handed over his cash, Kay asked them what else they wanted before being shot and murdered in cold blood alongside her mother Beth and then Rolf. Line and 16-year-old Tricia horrifically watched their parents and grandmother gunned down right in front of them. The two vile gunmen then forced the sisters to prepare the snowmobiles for the 4-mile trip into town, where the family's car was parked, before dousing the cabin and the bodies in gasoline and setting it alight, kidnapping the girls. However, Rolf wasn't actually dead. Incredibly, he'd survived being shot in the face by Von Lester, and then later again shot in the back of the head with a shotgun. And he pretended to be dead as gasoline was poured over his body, listening as his distraught daughters were taken away from him. His clothes catching fire, Rolf dragged himself to the shower before he doused the flames and stripped off his burned and bloody ski suit. Meanwhile, Tricia and Line were speeding towards town on the back of the gunmen's 2 snowmobiles. They passed their uncle Randy, who waved and called to them, unaware of the terrifying situation, but they didn't wave back, fearful that Von Lester or Daly would shoot him too, if they realised he was a family member. Randy thought the girls' behaviour was odd, but put it down to them being teenagers, maybe riding with their boyfriends. Yet Randy was even more surprised when moments later, another snowmobile shot down the track, only this time it was driven by a shirtless, bootless man wearing no helmet in -20 temperatures. His face was a swollen mask of blood and gore. Surprise turned to astonishment when he realised it was his brother Rolf riding the snowmobile. As he listened with disbelief, Rolf struggled to explain the nightmare to his brother, but he was fading fast. Randy rushed him to urgent medical care, rapidly informing the police of the stolen family car, with the 2 girls held hostage. After spotting the car, police engaged in a wild high-speed chase through numerous towns, eventually apprehending the killers when their car span out of control and collided with a snowdrift. The sisters were unharmed, and unbelievably, Rolf recovered from his wounds. Von Lester was sentenced to death for the murders of Kay and Beth, where he remains on death row to this very day, while Daly pled not guilty and received a life sentence without the possibility of parole, which he is still serving. The sick home video footage captured before the senseless murders serves as an eerie reminder of both the disturbing evil of some individuals and of how quickly an idyllic life can be turned brutally upside down. So, that was 5 creepy things caught on camera. What did you think of these? Let us know your take, thoughts and opinions in the comments. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next video.